A glorious morning to you out there and welcome to Atlantic Sport Talk. My name is Emmanuel Michael. I'm glad to be here this morning to bring you the latest gist making rounds in the world of sport. Atop of our menu this morning, Nigeria defeat Ireland, secures ticket for Cricket World Cup. Hamilton crash in a pre-season testing, and coming in from the world of football, Liverpool unbeaten streak ends in the UEFA Champions League. Details of this and many more will be yours after now. Alright, yeah, welcome back from that short break. Let's get started this morning, but joining me in the building this morning is Kingsley. Kingsley, good morning and welcome to Atlantic Television Sport Talk. Good morning to you, Michael. Very happy to be here this morning. Indeed, happy to be here this morning as we get rolling this morning with a whole lot of sporting activities, because we understand that the Nigerian under-19 female yellow-green actually defeated Ireland, to secure the Super 6 victory and also get the World Cup ticket in Malaysia. Despite a shaky start, Nigeria posted a competitive total of 94 runs after Ireland's captain, Niamey McNulty, won the toss and opted to bow first. Lilian Ude was awarded the player of the match for her sublime performance in Nigeria's win against Ireland. Nigeria's Navy victory over Ireland on Wednesday completed the country's fairy tale outing at the maiden World Cup out there. Oyakpata, president of the Nigerian Cricket Federation, is delighted with the players' performance and encourages the federation to motivate the team further. due to the team's performance. Nigeria have automatically qualified for the 2027 Under-19 Women's World Cup, which Bangladesh and Nepal will host. Kingsley, the Under-19 female yellow-green, they continue to make their fairy tale run at the World Cup. What do you make of their impressive show so far?
I think for me, has been an impressive one. We didn't actually expect them to go this far. When you take a look at, the teams they were paired with, the likes of Samoa. You talk about South Africa, and then you talk about Ireland, Ireland as well, and England. We didn't expect this level of performance from them, because if you take a look at it, yes, Nigeria used to be, a cricket nation, but we lost that touch, we lost that, test of we, of course, being the best, especially down here in Africa, when it has to do with, cricket. But for this particular performance, I think we're gradually getting back, to that particular height, as which we used to be one of the first to reckon with when it has to do with cricket. It was a very impressive outing for them, if not because of, the hitches they had in terms of bad weather condition, the pitch not being good enough, for them to play some of the games. I think they didn't play against England, and also they didn't play one other game as well. Out of the play, I think they opted out from playing about 2 due to bad weather condition. That also hindered their chances of making it to the semi-final of this particular World Cup, tournament. But at least getting that victory against Ireland yesterday was a very impressive one, for them, and that has, of course, helped them to secure the ticket for the 2027 Cricket World Cup, of course, that will be coming as well. For me, it's really an impressive performance. If probably they might have, completed their games, I think they would have stand a better chance to get down to the very end of the competition. But it is what it is. For me, I will give them, 8 over 10. It has to do with this performance. I think they've really done well. I think so many Nigerians didn't really expect them to go this far in the competition, but it's good of a thing we're seeing them at this height, and it's there left for the Nigerian Cricket Federation now to see how to put the girls in order, groom them, let there be some grassroots tournaments where they can come, and participate. This will keep them going. We don't want to see a situation whereby they come back and that's just actually the end. We have to see continuity. The girls, of course, have to be in a very good form by participating in grassroots tournament. I think that's the only way they can go very far. For me, it's been a good one, and kudos to the Nigerian Cricket Federation as well for top-notch organization.
You were actually trying to scale their performance so far. In the scale of 1 to 10, you were actually giving them 8 over 10. But they've played 5 games, just were able to play only 2 competitively, and won those 2 because their game against Samoa, rain could not allow them to play that very one. Against England, they could not play as well. Against South Africa, they lost that one woefully. They just won 2 competitive gameplay so far. So with this, I still find it difficult why you are giving them.
Even the game they lost to South Africa, there was hitches as well. There was rain issue, and the match has to be halted. Now, based on permutation and calculation, and our cricket, of course, is being done. That was what South Africa were favoured at the end of the day. So I still think if probably that game might have ended properly, the Nigerian female yellow green would have stand a chance in that game. Yeah. So that's why I'm actually rating them that high, because if yes, they didn't play Samoa, they didn't play England. What if they have played Samoa? Yes, in the first game. What if they have played it? Do you know what possible outcome? For beating New Zealand and Ireland is a big credit alone. Those are cricket nations. It's a big credit alone. I didn't really give them. When you take a look at the state of sports here in the country, I talk about cricket as well, and then seeing the guys going to the tournaments and putting such a performance, it's something big as it stands. So for me, that's why I rated them 8 over 10, because I felt even the game against South Africa that they lost, if they have completed that game, maybe they would have stand a chance of outclassing South Africa in that game. But I'm not really sure about England, because I know England are well rooted when it has to do with cricket, but you never can tell what could have maybe happened, you know, in that encounter. So for me, it's an impressive ride. It's a very, very impressive performance. And I think for me, if they might have been given, you know, that chance of playing in those games that they couldn't play due to bad weather condition, possibly they would have really stand a chance of making it through in this one.
They would have really stand a chance of making it through in this very one. But one thing you can't take away from the under-19 female yellow-green is their prowess so far. I think they've actually, you know, surpassed so many expectations out there. We continue to wish them well, continue to support them to see if they can continue to, you know, hold it very tight out there when it matters most for the country. Away from that, let's dive straight to the world of Formula One this morning, because Lewis Hamilton has crashed his Ferrari during the team's pre-season testing program in Spain. The 7-time champion was on hot after losing control of the team's 2023 car at the circuit de Barcelona-Catalonia yesterday. Ferrari declined to comment on the incident, which happened on Hamilton's second day of running as Spanish track, where he is sharing the car with teammate Charles Leclerc. The incident happened as Ferrari seek to embed Hamilton into the teams effectively as possible before the start of the season at the Australian Grand Prix on the 14th to 16th of March. Ferrari will launch their 2025 car, the Fiorano, on the 19th February, the day after Formula One's session launch event at the O2 in London. Ferrari will give Hamilton further test miles before the launch in Pirelli runs. Kingsley, this man, after leaving you know, his former employer, talking about the Mercedes to you know, adventure to Ferrari, in his second day of trying to get himself familiarized with the car, he actually crashed. And will you say that this is going to be more like a bad omen for him ahead of the season?
Not really a bad omen. Of course, it's practice and it's getting used to the car, so you can expect anything to happen at this point in time. But with the fact that Lewis Hamilton is an experienced driver, much is expected from him in terms of, you know, his level of experience in controlling the car at this point in time. But it is what it is. The man is trying to get used to the new car of Ferrari and also the circuit. Though this circuit is something he has actually drove before on this circuit, so I don't think that could be a problem. But for me, I think the car that him is trying to get himself, you know, used to is actually the, you know, bone of contention at this point in time. I think Ferrari possibly they're going to replace that car. I think he was sharing that one with his teammate Charles Leclerc, and before he got, you know, that one, you know, crashed. But I think for me, there's no much, you know, cause for alarm. There's no much cause for alarm. That's why Ferrari, they've not even said anything, you know, about the incident. It is something possibly that you expect to happen, you know, when a driver is trying to get himself acclimatized, you know, to a particular car. It's not really a bad omen for Lewis Hamilton. I think for me, it's even good that maybe all of this is happening during his practice session with the team. We hope that, you know, before the season gets started next month, he'll be able, of course, to familiarize himself and get, of course, you know, to be in a very good shape, you know, to compete with the other drivers.
All right, we hope that Lewis Hamilton is going to, you know, find his footing and his new role out there to ensure that he give, drivers like, you know, Lewis Hamilton, okay, other drivers, you know, making waves such as Max Verstappen. We just want to see a very healthy competition in this season Formula One. But still talking Formula One this morning, former Grand Prix driver Johnny Herbert has been dropped from his role as the steward in Formula One. Governing body, the FIA, said that Herbert's duty as an FIA steward and that of a media pundit were incompatible. The statement added that the decision was made with regret and that the three-time race winner was widely respected and brought invaluable experience and expertise to his role. The FIA refused to comment further, but disquiet was centered on the 60-year-old commenting on decisions he had been involved as an FIA steward on a number of betting websites. Last year, Herbert found himself in the middle of a public row with four-time world champion Max Verstappen's father following the Mexico City Grand Prix, at which the Englishman was a steward. Verstappen was given 2 10-second penalty for two incidents with McLaren's London Norris on the same lap in that very one as well. Now Humbert, he has been embroiled with a whole lot of controversy, especially for last season. Some of the decisions he made didn't actually go down well with some of the drivers, also, you know, fingered in betting stuff and all of that. Could this be the reason why he has been, you know, also relieved of that duty?
It's not far from it. Of course, when you're not, properly, when you don't properly conduct yourself, things like this are bound to happen. Not really far from it. I think if you take a look at it, 2 or 3 seasons ago at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, where Max Verstappen, took down one ahead of Lewis Hamilton, I think the FIA president as at then was really much in controversy due to the fact that, of course, his decision maybe was not really good enough, to the fans. And this time around, we're talking about Humbert. So when you go against the rules, there's always a means where you will be sanctioned. And this, of course, has happened at this point in time. As a steward, you should be able to know what to do. You should be able to know the rules of the game. Why involve yourself, in betting issue? I think the last season he had a little bit of altercation with Max Verstappen. I heard there was a 10 seconds penalty, which actually cost Max Verstappen, that particular race as well. So a lot of things, at this point in time. So when there's a lot of issues on your file, you'll be scrutinized, and after scrutiny, if you're not, whatever that have been scrutinized is not in your favor, possibly there will be sanctions. I think that's it. It's a game that has rules, so you should also abide by the rules. This one man who is very experienced in the sport. He has once been a driver, even becoming a steward. Yeah. So he has the knowledge of the game. So you shouldn't do what, of course, will come against you. And I think for me, at this point in time, you can never question the FIA. They've taken their decision at this point due to their findings on the man Humbert.
The FIA president, Suliam, he has been criticized by the Drivers Association. Even at some point, they had to write several letters to Ben Suliam complaining about certain
personal issue. Whereas the FIA were saying that could be helpful. Eventually, you get an accident, and that could be very, very dangerous, to you. But the drivers, came together and were like, no, we want to do whatever we want. We want. It is our body, and all of that. That freedom should be given. That there shouldn't be they shouldn't be controlled, in that manner. And I think if you take a look at it at some point, that was, So there have been a lot of issues in the past where drivers come together, to talk about, and at the end of the day, they were given, that, hearing at the end of the day. So for me, I think in a situation whereby the drivers, come together to talk, they always take it seriously. This is not the case of Suleiman, being maybe considerate, at this point. I think they have to listen to it. The drivers are the main thing in the competition. If the drivers are not okay, Formula One will not be interesting. So you have to make sure that there are proper regulations to make sure that both parties, of course, will be at peace for there to be fun in the game.
All right, we'll see how that one pans out. But let's head straight to the world of tennis this morning, as Novak Djokovic has withdrawn from Serbia's Davis Cup tie against Denmark because of a hamstring injury. The 24-time Grand Slam champion was booed off court by some Australian Open fans last week when he retired with the issue after losing the first set of his semi-finals against Alexander Zverev. Djokovic, who is 37-year-old, later posted a photo of an MRI taken of his left hamstring with the caption, "Although I will leave this year for all the sports injuries experts out here." Serbia are playing a first round qualifying time, which start on Friday. Novak Djokovic is still battling with injury after being forced out of that first set in the Australian Open. This is a very big blow for Australia. We think that they have other players that can also come in and also continue to carry the flag for Australia.
Yeah, well, I think they have some couple of players that could fill in the shoe of Novak Djokovic, but we know that yes, the shoe of Novak Djokovic very big to fill.
True.
At this point in time, that vacuum will be felt at the end of the day. But it is what it is. The man is 37 years of age. You saw what happened to him in the Australian Open. He struggled against Carlos Alcaraz, and of course, couldn't get himself, better against Alexander Zverev. He has to retire, from that one. And coming down to this one, he has to, of course, give himself that break to properly, get himself in shape. I think that he'd actually undergo an MRI scan on his arm, and trying to see how to get himself, in shape. So for me, I don't think this is a big deal for Novak Djokovic at this point in time. In fact, opting out from this tournament doesn't really mean a lot for him. He has been here before. I think he's won it. So nothing is really much of a surprise at this point in time. We should be looking forward to prepare for the French Open that will be coming up. I think playing Grand Slam now, is nice priority, not just this mini tournament, that comes in between the season at this point in time. The best now is just for him to sit back, get himself in proper shape, get back to training, and see how we can, of course, continue that pursuit for his 25th, Grand Slam at this point in time. That is actually his target, and we look forward to see how he's going to achieve that particular. But for me, opting out from this one, I think is a good one for him to recover.
Still talking tennis, this morning tennis players are facing allegation of doping or corruption will be able to access a pro bono legal support as part of a new scheme launched by the Professional Tennis Players Association, talking about the PTPA. The PTPA established it by Novak Djokovic and Vasek Popsil in 2020 to increase players' power in sport. Said it will ensure access to world-class legal experts regardless of players' financial standing and personal resource. Men's world number one, Jannik Sinner, five-time women Grand Slam champion Iga Swiatek failed doping test last year. The handling of those cases by tennis authority led to criticism from some players over double standards, a claim the International Tennis Integrity Agency has strenuously denied. Sinner, who is 23, did not face a ban after failing two tests in March, but that case will be heard at the Court of Arbitration for our sport, talking about cars. Kingsley, what does this mean, having a pro bono legal expertise for the players to front their case whenever there is any allegation of doping and all of that?
It's a new scheme being put up, by the Tennis Association to help players, of course, to able to carry out legal issues, whenever, they are being actually found wanting in terms of doping issues. I think this scheme at this point in time will give players, that opportunity to see how they can get good lawyers, that will be able to stand in for them. Most of the time, some players are not that financially buoyant to, get a good lawyer that could possibly stand in for them whenever they are actually being, found wanting in doping issues. So it actually do not give some of them, that, equal opportunity to be able to stand to defend themselves, at the end of the day. So I think this new scheme will provide that platform whereby, no matter the financial status of a player, you can be able to get the rights or the best lawyer for yourself to be able to defend you at this point in time. Because if you take a look at it, some players, they have actually, not been able to defend themselves. Now you ask yourself, why is it that Jannik Sinner last season failed a doping case about, twice? And at the end of the day, he was just being, points were deducted, and of course he paid fine, and he was not suspended. You ask yourself, why is this so? It means, of course, the man has a very strong legal backing, to whatever he's been accused of. Whereas this person is being given professional treatment. So for me, I think it's as a result of the person's legal backing, and that's for Yannick Sinner. We've seen the case at this point. But this new scheme will give the tennis players the opportunity that no matter the case, you'll be able to get or afford that lawyer that can be able to help you no matter your financial status. And I think for me, it's a good one. I think it's a good one to make sure that there is equality when it comes to dealing with issues in terms of doping of these tennis players.
All right, that is a very nice one, and we hope that the players are going to enjoy this very scheme. Having a pro bono legal support simply means that whether you have money or you don't have money as a player, you still have the luxury of having a legal expert that is going to fight for your case out there. Despite your status, it doesn't really matter. You have a free support from lawyers who is going to pick up your case and speak in your favor. This is what it actually means, and I would think it's a nice one there, so that players will have an equal opportunity to also fight their case as well. Whenever any issue of doping allegation comes up, you don't need to bother your head about sourcing for funds to get a legal backing. I mean, this is what this simply means. But at this point, we'll take a quick break. When we are back from the break, we'll dive straight to the world of football. Don't go anywhere.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
All right, you're welcome back from that short break. Let's dive straight to the world of football this morning, because the Commissioner for Sport in Rivers State, Barrister Chris Green, has rewarded victorious Rivers Angel after defeating FC Robo Queens. Green, who congratulated the team on the hard-fought 4-2 victory over FC Robo Queens, presented the team with a gift of ₦1 million as a token of appreciation and motivation for the team. With the decisive victory, Rivers Angel under Tosan Blackson go top of the table in Group B with 7 points after 3 games played so far. Kingsley, this is another way of trying to motivate Rivers Angels player to actually do more. 3 games played so far, 2 victory and a draw, having a total of 7 points. This is the way to go, I think.
Yeah, this is the way to go. They have always been, motivated. And I think for me, the River State Sport Commissioner, Barrister Christopher Green, has a way of, motivating the teams down here in River State. To understand, we've always seen a gesture towards the basketball team, talking about River Supers. Whenever they go out there and had an impressive performance, when they come back, they are always heavily rewarded. And that's the same gesture is also putting up there for Rivers Angels. These are girls, so a little bit of motivation means a lot, to them at this points in time. So for me, I think that will go a long way. That will go a long way in terms of, getting to the girls at this point in time. They've done well in the last 3 games. They've been able to rack up about 7 points. They've actually won 2 and they've drawn 1. They've not lost any game so far in the competition. So it's a good way to start for Rivers Angels, especially with their new coach, Tosan Blankson. I think for me, that's actually a very huge amount of motivation already. And the new players they recruited as well, I think they are, that's the reason why they're doing so well at this point in time. They were very much prepared before the season got started. So I'm not really surprised with this level of performance. It's just as a result of, adequate preparation. And that's how we're seeing Rivers Angels, go in this moment. So we'll hope they continue like this. A lot of expectation from them, knowing the fact that they used to be the best. In the last 2 seasons, they've not really, done so well. But we'll hope that this season, they will be able, of course, to fight with the rest of the teams that will be coming up against them.
All right, we hope that they continue to fight, and see if they can be able to get all 3 points in their next game, and that would be a very great one. But one thing we can't take away from the sport commissioner talking about Barrister Christopher Green is his support for River State teams whenever they are going out there to compete in any strata of sporting activity. Of course, you can't forget how supportive he's been for the basketball team right here as well. We continue to hope that this continue to get the teams right here continue to get the needed support from the sport commissioner so as to do River State proud. But other result that came through in the Nigerian Women Football League yesterday saw Edo Queens being held at home by Remo Stars Ladies. 1-1 ended in that very one. Ekiti Queens as well had a bit of Danas Ladies 2-0. It ended in that very one. Meanwhile, Confluence Queens as well lost at home to Nasarawa Amazon 1-0. Heartland Queens continued their poor form because they played 0-0 against Abia Angels in what is termed as Oriental Derby in that very one. Rivers Angels, like we told you, defeated the Robo Queens 4 goals to 2. Adamawa Queens trashed Delta Queens 3 goals to nothing. While Benue Queens lost at home to Bayelsa Queens 5 goals to 1. It ended. It was a total dismantling. And Najaratos also got the beat of Ibom Angels 2 goals to 1. It ended in that very one. All right. We'll continue to keep you abreast with some of the latest results coming in from the Nigeria Women Football League. But let's dive straight to the NPFL, talking about the Nigeria Premier Football League this morning, as Ahmed Musa has and his Kano Pillars teammate endured a tough outing in the Nigerian Premier Football League clash against Ikorodu City, suffering a 4-1 defeat at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena yesterday. Despite playing behind closed doors, the home side delivered a dominant performance to secure all 3 points. Meanwhile, in other high-scoring encounters, saw Remo Stars stage an impressive comeback to defeat Abia Warriors 3 goals to 2 in Ikene. The Sky Blue Stars are on 42 points from 21 games played so far. Elsewhere in the Nigerian Premier Football League, Akwa United and Lobby Stars played out a 1-1 draw with Friday's Apollos scoring in the 73rd minute to cancel out Onyekachi Okafor's 28-minute strike, in that very one. Kingsley, the situation for Akwa United continue to remain the same. They continue to struggle. With the way they are going, do you think that they still can sustain their momentum in the Nigerian Premier Football League, or this could be that year where Akwa United will be relegated?
Talking about the year they will be relegated, for me, I think they shouldn't even be discussing that. I think they still have more games to be played, this season before the season comes to an end. They have about, if I'm not mistaken, up to 16 or 15 games, remaining. So they should fight. it will be very, very disappointing that Akwa United has been relegated in the Nigerian Premier Football League. I think 3 or 4 seasons ago, we had about 2 teams in Akwa Ibom State, Dakada FC and Akwa United. And before we know, Dakada came from relegation, came in and were challenging seriously in the Nigerian Premier Football League. You know, before, you know, with Tinkula Vanai as well, they gone back to relegation. So Akwa United is the standout team now in Akwa Ibom State. So it's very disappointing for them to be relegated at this point in time. When you take a look at their pedigree, they've won the Nigerian Premier Football League before, not too long, I think 3 seasons or 4 seasons ago, and they've been given that support right from time. So I'm really wondering what is really the problem at this point in time. If the players, of course, are not living up to expectation on the pitch of play, there have been, you know, change of managers, you know, for some time now. Kennedy Boboye, of course, understand, was there with them 3 or 4 seasons ago, won the league with them. There was issue in the second season and he couldn't continue. He has to leave, but now the man is back. Under him, I think they played about, if not 2 or 3 games, but the result has not really been fair enough, you know, at this point in time. This is the first time they're even getting a very good result under Kennedy Boboye, at least taking 1 point, you know, back home. They are, you know, second to bottom for the table as it stands. Not a very good position for Akwa United. And with the intensity of the league at this point in time, if they don't raise their game, it's going to be very difficult for them to survive that relegation. But we hope that the master tactician, talking about Kennedy Boboye, one man who has done so well, don't forget, there was a point, of course, he actually went to Heartland and, of course, helped them, you know, to be able to stand strong, if not because of, you know, the interference of the state government, and he has to leave. I think he would have done so well with Heartland FC. We saw him with Sunshine Stars, I think, based on kind of contractual issues as well, and management's interference on his decision, he has to leave. Now he's back at Akwa United. We just hope that it's going to help the promise keepers, of course, keep their promise to the people of Akwa Ibomite by staying top in the Nigerian Premier Football League.
Just like Kingsley said out there, that he hopes that the promise keeper are going to keep their promise against, you know, in favor of their fans out there by remaining afloat the Nigerian Premier Football League. But I tell you, Kingsley, if things don't change, I do not think that they are going to keep to this promise, because if you could also recall, last season, this is how they also struggled. In fact, they had to beat the drop zone about 2 or 3 games to go last season as well.
And thank God for Baba Ganaro, who came to, of course, salvage them.
But Baba Ganaro came to salvage, but then, you know, as he salvaged the situation, starting of the new season, he was unable to find that rhythm that helped him to salvage the situation.
You know, but we must thank him, at least, for helping them to survive that relegation last season, because it would have been very, very disappointing. That right now, Akwa United will be competing with the NNL teams. Very, very embarrassing.
Very embarrassing indeed. But away from that, let's head straight to Europe this morning, because Steven Gerrard is set to be sacked as manager of Al Ittifaq. The Saudi Pro League side have taken the decision as the team sits just 5 points above the relegation zone. Al Ittifaq sit in 12th place in the table after winning just 5 of their 17 league games this term. Gerrard earns around £15.2 million a year in the Gulf state, but the team has won just 1 game since the turn of the year. According to Marca, Gerrard has asked to leave, and his resignation request has been submitted to the Financial Sustainability Committee for the Saudi Arabian's top flight. A compensation package for the 44-year-old is yet to be rubber stamped, according to Saudi newspaper. Now, Kingsley, my only worry here is about English young, you know, coaches. If you take a look at the trajectory, young coaches from, you know, England, they have not really lived up to the expectation. You talk about the likes of, you know, Wayne Rooney. You talk about the likes of Frank Lampard. You know, I mean, you take a look at the trajectory. You look as though they are not living up to the expectation of what the English Premier League truly stand for, as one of the most competitive league in the world. But you see, You know, they are young aspiring coaches not being able to live up to expectation. Lampard has been sacked in different clubs. Rooney also have relegated these different clubs out there. Now, Steven Gerrard, he did pretty well with Rangers, but coming back to the main mainstream Europe, he seems to struggle, even taking his poor form down to Saudi Arabia right now.
I think if you take a look at it, you're right when you say that, you know, England, as a football nation, they've not produced quality coaches. You know, for me, you're very, very right. The likes of Lampard, the likes of Steven Gerrard, you talk about Rooney, who has been moving from one club to the other, relegating teams, you know, they've not really done well. They've not really done well. And you can attribute that to the fact that England do not really have pattern of football. Yeah, they do not really have.
True.
They do not really have. So they don't have what they are building on.
True. Unlike the Spanish coaches or the Italian coaches, you take a look at the ways Italian coaches and Spanish coaches, you know, go about the tactical disposition in their team. You clearly did identify a unique system, but the English coaches,
they do not really have. You can, you know, they do not really have. Just like you mentioned, the Spanish, the Germans, very good tactically when they, of course, they emerge in managing a team.
Even Italians as well.
Even Italians. So you can take a look at it that England do not really have pattern. When the English football team assemble to play, what pattern of football do you see?
True.
That's the question.
True.
They play, yes, they pass the ball, you know, go on the counter and all of that, but do they really have an identity? Southgate, of course, has been England coach for so many years. What identity was he able to bring? Yes, he was able to take them to finals of different tournaments, but did he win anyone? He didn't win anyone. But you take a look at, you know, the Spanish team, you see the kind of free flow football they play. They keep the football on the ground. They play tiki-taka pattern of football. You go to Germany, you see how they're able to, of course, move the speed, agility. The tactics is there. Even in Italy. So at the end of the day, you go into a particular game, you go into a particular tournament, you have a coach who has actually instilled a particular pattern of play, you know, to the team. But in the case of England, in a situation whereby you don't learn tactics as a player, let's use for instance as a player, you know, from a manager or a particular philosophy or pattern of play, then you grow up to be a manager. What will you do? So that's the question. What we believe is, yes, we understand they go to coaching schools, but even now when they come out of this coaching school, but nothing to show for. So for me, it's really, really disturbing at this point. For that of Steven Gerrard, who saw him at Rangers, had a very impressive performance, came down to, I think, Aston Villa. He was able to at least help them. Was it the first season? But he started struggling, you know, the second season. And then Aston Villa had to let him go, brought in, I think, owner Emery. He went down to Saudi Arabia. Now the poor performance, you know, still continue. Whatever you have, definitely you replicate it. For example, you see Pep. Take a look at yesterday where his team were at the verge of being eliminated in Champions. He brought them back. In fact, they conceded first. But he brought them back into the game. That is what he called. That's a manager. One who knows what it takes. They have it at their fingertips. They can display it at any time and get the result. Football is not luck. It's about the tactics. It's about what you can bring on the table. It's the mathematics. You calculate it and get your result. But the Englishmen, they don't have it, and that's why they are struggling when it comes to managing, you know, teams at this point. And we hope they will improve.
We hope they improve, but one thing is certain, it looks as though the English manager doesn't have the tactical disposition to find their way through to some clubs out there, and that is why they continue to struggle. You can listen to the names being rolled out there. Take a look at their coaching career so far. It hasn't really improved, where you say, okay, they're doing pretty well. The likes of Frank Lampard, Wayne Rooney, now Steven Gerrard, not a good one at all. But away from that, let's head straight to the UEFA Champions League, because some games, you know, all the games took place last night as the inaugural league phase of the UEFA Champions League has come to an end, with 8 teams making it directly to the round of 16 and 16 teams to battle it out at the playoff round. Manchester City secured the playoff spot with a crucial 3-1 victory over Club Brugge at the Etihad stadium last night. Kingsley, you just talked about Manchester City and how Pep Joseph Salah Guardiola was able to ignite the light that was very faint at the end of the tunnel to give them another hope of also seeing if they can be able to make it to the round of 16. But they considered first in that very one. Yeah. At that point, what was in your mind? Because I know you kept your eye glued to that very game.
I was disappointed. If you take a look at it, that first half, they have a very, very shambolic defense. The defense was not good enough. We saw them losing balls. They were not that formidable. But thank God they were able to get themselves back and see how they can come back. In that encounter, we saw the likes of Savinho. I think going forward, we'll start seeing a new Manchester City.
True.
No longer the regular Manchester City we used to see. The regular names. We'll start seeing new names now popping up, to make things happen at Manchester. Take a look at yesterday. We saw Savinho having a very impressive, display in that particular encounter yesterday. So for me, it was a good comeback for Manchester City. It would have been very disappointing, shameful, embarrassing to Pep Guardiola. I was actually gone a lot. The year has not even started, and he's going through a lot. The issue of the divorce case with his wife, his team not performing, and also being eliminated in Champions League. Would have been a whole lot for Pep Guardiola. I don't know if probably he has what it takes to be able to maybe absorb the pressure that will come, to him. But thank God he was able to rescue himself, from that particular pressure. We'll just look forward to see what they were able to do in the playoff. But it's so disappointing that Manchester City are trying to get to the next round of the Champions League through playoffs. This is a team that at least in about 4 seasons they've been in the quarterfinal, semi-final of the Champions League. So what has really brought this, setback? I think for me, yes, we understand what Pep is going through. Some of the players being injured, some not fit enough, some being of our age. So there needs to be a lot of revolution at Manchester City, and that's what Pep, of course, is trying to do. Don't forget, they are so busy in the January transfer window. They've gotten, I think, Mamouche to, of course, help to come strengthen the attack of Manchester City. So I think Manchester City at this point in time, they're gradually, seeing how they can transform the team, back to what it used to be. But it was a good one for them to be able to get that one against, Club Brugge. Yesterday, our very own Frank, I think Onyedika, actually scored. He scored the goal for us. I was happy. I was like, Manchester City, what was the problem? But that's the case. But it's good of a thing that they are back now, and let's see how they'll be able to fight in the playoff to get to the next round of the competition.
We'll see how they fight to the playoff and get to the next round of the competition. Meanwhile, Liverpool, having already secured qualification, claimed the top spot despite a 2-1 defeat. They suffered in the hand of PSV and Oven, benefiting from Barcelona's 1-1 draw with Atlanta. Now, Liverpool, though they had qualified for the round of 16, but not too many people expected them to lose that game yesterday against PSV and Oven.
Don't forget as well, PSV were also fighting for a playoff spot, with that encounter. If we take a look at it, they were fighting, so they needed that victory, to be able to, stand up. And thank God for them getting that victory. Of course, secured them a playoff spot, yesterday. So you could see that the pressure was much on them, and that's why they were able to go all round to make sure that they get that victory against Liverpool. Liverpool have nothing to fight for in that encounter. They were already through, even though they didn't get the victory. Of course, they were already through by automatic qualification. But the pressure was much on PSV, and that's why they came all out, against Liverpool to make sure they get that victory yesterday. And that, of course, has kept them in the playoff zone.
That has really kept them in the playoff zone. When we come back in the evening, do well to roll out the results for you, and also the teams that have made it through to the round of 16. Then again, we'll also let you know the other teams that is going to play the playoff and see if they can join some of the teams that have made it to the round of 16, in the evening. You don't want to miss that very one, because we'll do well to give you some of the key highlights in some of the games, that took place last night. But before we leave, Napoli, we hear, have also rejected a 65 million euro for their key man, talking about Victor Osimhen, who is on loan to Galatasaray. But Kingsley, before we leave, quickly, what do you make of Napoli and their intrigues about Victor Osimhen?
I don't know what's the problem is. They don't want to let the man go. They want to really cash out on him. Before, I think they were asking for 75 million euros. Now, okay, Galatasaray has tabled for Galatasaray to table 65 million. That is much from them. But Napoli, they are still insisting. I think the fact that they don't need Osimhen again, they want to cash out on him by all means.
True.
That's just the case at this point in time.
But at the same time, trying to frustrate the young man.
So it's actually a big problem. And Napoli are fond of this, especially the club presidents. I think Raul Lawrence is actually fond of it, especially on African players. He holds them tight to make sure he gets what he wants at the end of the day. So for me, I just hope that maybe Galatasaray will be able to dole out this money. Maybe any team from England possibly could dole out this money and get the man away at this point in time. I think Osimhen at some point also made a mistake. The contract he extended with Napoli, I think last 2 seasons, is the reason why he's going through all of this. If maybe after winning the Scudetto, and then of course he finds his way out of the team, this wouldn't have been happening. But yeah, I think there was a little bit of talk. The fans love him. The management, of course, of the team love him. He should stay, and he put pen to paper. But for me, I think he would have taken that decision and then move. If he had made that move, all of this won't be happening at this point.
All right, this is where we drop the anchor for this morning show. But do well to join us in the evening. Then we'll have more time to also bring you other electrifying